Nearly 3 years after Christina Ashten Gourkani's death first raised public questions about dangerous underground cosmetic procedures, the case has now reached its biggest legal turning point yet. On March 24, 2026, California prosecutors announced that a jury convicted Vivian Alexandra Gomez in connection with Gourkani's death, shifting the story from allegation to verdict. If you value fact-checked celebrity updates and trending entertainment news handled with care, subscribe, like, and share to support Starline Daily. On March 24, 2026, Vivian Alexandra Gomez was found guilty of felony involuntary manslaughter and practicing medicine without a license in San Mateo County, California. The victim was Christina Ashten Gourkani, the 34-year-old model and online creator who became widely known for her resemblance to Kim Kardashian. As of the latest available information, Gomez was remanded to custody after the verdict, and sentencing is scheduled for May 5th. The case goes back to April 19, 2023, when prosecutors said Gomez traveled from Florida to the Bay Area to perform a silicone buttock injection on Gourkani at a hotel in Burlingame, near San Francisco International Airport. According to prosecutors, the procedure was done outside a licensed medical setting. That detail became central to the case almost immediately, because what happened next moved very quickly. Authorities said Gourkani became ill soon after the injection. She was taken to a hospital in Burlingame, and prosecutors later said she died the following day from respiratory failure and a pulmonary embolism. Public reporting on the case also said silicone was found in her bloodstream, which prosecutors used to explain why the medical emergency turned fatal so fast. At the time, the public first learned of Gourkani's death through her family, who said she went into cardiac arrest after what they described as a medical procedure that took a turn for the worse. That early statement explained the shock around her death, but it did not yet answer the larger question of who had performed the procedure, what exactly had been injected, and whether the case would lead to criminal charges. Those answers came later, as investigators and prosecutors built the case. In the weeks that followed, Gomez was arrested in Florida, and the case moved into the California court system. By March 20, 2005, the matter was still awaiting trial, showing just how long these proceedings can take, even when the basic public timeline seems clear. That delay mattered, because by the time the trial finally happened, the central issue was no longer just what happened in that hotel room, but whether prosecutors could prove criminal responsibility beyond the initial headlines. According to current reporting, jurors heard the case over a 15-day trial before reaching a verdict after roughly 3 hours of deliberation. That is a notable detail, because it suggests the jury moved relatively quickly once the evidence phase was complete. The conviction also means the case now stands very differently than it did in 23, when the story was still framed around an arrest and pending charges. What makes this case especially significant is that it sits at the intersection of celebrity image culture, cosmetic enhancement, and public safety. Gourkani had built an online following and was often described in public coverage as a Kim Kardashian lookalike, but the legal case that followed her death was not about internet branding. It became a courtroom test of what happens when body contouring procedures are allegedly carried out by an unlicensed provider in a non-medical setting. That broader concern is part of why this story kept resurfacing. The FDA has publicly warned that injectable silicone used for body contouring is not approved and can lead to serious injuries, disfigurement, and even death. So while this case centered on one victim and one defendant, it also landed in a larger conversation about cosmetic risk, social media pressure, and the difference between licensed medical care and black market procedures. For viewers trying to understand the case in plain terms, the clearest update is this: a jury has now convicted Gomez, and the court has moved to the sentencing phase. That is the confirmed change. The unresolved part is the final penalty, because as of March 26, 2026, sentencing had not yet happened. For Gourkani's family, the verdict closes one chapter, but not the story itself. Publicly, she was first mourned as a daughter, sister, and online personality whose death seemed sudden and confusing. Now, nearly 3 years later, there is a legal finding attached to that loss, and that is why her name is back in headlines again. As of now, the next date to watch is May 5th, when Gomez is scheduled to be sentenced. That hearing should answer the remaining public question in this case. After the conviction, what punishment will the court impose? Thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting Starline Daily.